أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. I want to begin by speaking about a concept that's oftentimes misunderstood, I think, and that's the concept of sabr, the concept of patience. In the context of abuse or oppression, it is extremely important to understand the meaning of the word sabr and when it applies and when it does not apply. Sabr is a concept that we are taught. It's one of the greatest virtues as believers that we're told to have. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about sabr, He encourages the believers to have sabr. And now in defining sabr, this one Arabic word, and you'll oftentimes find this to be the case, that there will be one Arabic word and you need a number, maybe 10 English words to describe this one Arabic word. And sabr is a very good example of that. Sabr can be translated as patience, perseverance, constancy, persistence. It's being able to withstand hardship. It's also being able to be patient. It's being able to respond when needed and not respond when needed. So patience and sabr does not actually mean the same thing as being passive. So when we are told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have sabr, to have patience, it does not mean that we are passive about what's going on in our lives, but rather there are times when we need to stand firm. And so if we think about sabr in this way, sabr can mean, one of the meanings of sabr is standing firm. For example, the very last ayah of Surah Al-Imran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the believers to have sabr. And in fact, this ayah goes and explains many different derivations of this same concept of sabr. But this, even when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using it in this context, one of the meanings is, for example, standing firm, but when the enemy is about to approach. So sabr here, how does that then fit in the context of oppression? Well, for one, sabr does not mean that you don't take any action to basically take any action to end the oppression. In fact, in order to take action and in order to be successful and in order to be firm in that action that you're taking, you need sabr. You need to be able to be firm and to stand firm and to be, to persevere if you are going to stand up against oppression. So in fact, subhanAllah, the concept of sabr in the context of oppression or in the context of abuse is quite the opposite than what we usually think of as sabr in that context. A lot of times women are told, or women believe, that if they're being mistreated or they're being abused, that they should just be patient. They're told to be patient. And this concept of being patient against oppression is something that is not an Islamic concept. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ has taught us that when we see something wrong, hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, when we see something wrong, that we should try to change it. He doesn't say that when you see something wrong, just be patient and stay quiet about it. But rather, when we see something wrong, we're told, try to change it with your hand. And if you cannot, then try to speak out against it. And at the very least, hate it in your heart. And that's the weakest of faith. In this hadith, we are taught how we should respond when we see something wrong, when we see oppression, when we see abuse, or if it's happening to us. We should try to change it. It should not be something that we just accept and that means that we're being good Muslims. Because in fact, the Prophet ﷺ has advised the opposite with regards to something wrong, with injustice or oppression. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ told his companions, help your brother whether he is an oppressor or whether he is being oppressed. Okay, so in this hadith, it's, the companions like us basically understood this hadith and said, well, we can understand how we help our brother when he's being oppressed. That's very clear. We try to save him from that oppression. But they then asked, well, how do we help our brother when he's the oppressor? And the Prophet ﷺ said, by stopping him from oppressing. So you see, we learn from this hadith that you're actually helping your brother, whether it's your husband or it's your wife or your significant other or your father or your mother or anyone in your life who is being oppressive, who is being abusive, that by stopping that person, you are actually helping them. And this is something the Prophet ﷺ explains. He said that even if your brother is an oppressor, you're helping him. You're helping him or her by stopping him from oppressing. This should be seen as something that one does for the sake of Allah. Not that one allows oppression to continue, not that one allows another person to be oppressive upon them or upon their children or upon anyone, and then say that that is patience and that is sabr. If you were to see, for example, you're crossing the street and you see someone beating up on another person, and you walk right by and you say, it's because my religion teaches me to be patient and I'm just going to allow that to happen and I'm not going to do anything about that. Well, that's absolutely not the concept of patience. That's not the meaning of patience. In fact, it goes against the advice of the Prophet ﷺ, where he says that when you see something wrong, you are supposed to try to change it. And you're supposed to try to change it using different means. First try to change it by your hands, speaking out against it. And if you're not able to change it by any of those means, at the very least, you're supposed to hate it in your heart. So you're not supposed to justify the action, but rather you're supposed to be aware that there's something wrong with this action. It's not an acceptable action, and you should at least hate it in your heart, and that's the weakest of faith. But the stronger level of faith is the one is the action where you're in fact trying to stop it, when you're in fact trying to change it. Now, so that's just on a general, just kind of generally talking about and unlearning this other concept of sabr, being passive against oppression, being passive against abuse. No one is, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also said that He does not approve of injustice. So in this hadith Qudsi, the Prophet or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we're told that Allah says that He's telling the believers, He's telling the people, do not oppress one another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not approve of oppression. This is so important, because when we think that it is more holy, or it's more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be more pleased if we approve of oppression or we approve of abuse, that's not true, because Allah is saying here, do not oppress one another, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not approve of oppression. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love oppression. And this is something that we also should not love, and we also should not approve of, and not really allow to happen by any means that we can try to take action against it. It does not make you sinful if you take action against it. In fact, that is what the Prophet ﷺ is telling us to do when we see something wrong. And for sure, the abuse of a family member is absolutely something that's despised. It's something that is very wrong. It's very it's something that is a sin upon that person, that they are abusing another human being, and you should do everything in your power to actually not allow yourself to be oppressed, but beyond that, you're actually helping the oppressor by stopping their oppression. One other thing to keep in mind is this: Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every single thing that He gave us is an amana, is a trust. And that includes our bodies, that includes our health, that includes our eyes, our ears, everything that He gave us, our health. So if there's someone who's coming and is, basically harming any of that trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, it is upon us to take care of our trusts. It is upon us to take care of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with as an amana, because our body belongs to Him. Our body belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our body doesn't belong to ourselves. Our body most definitely doesn't belong to another person. So if someone is mistreating us, or someone is mistreating the trust, if someone is mistreating our body, they're mistreating something that belongs to God. They're mistreating a trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And so it's upon us to take care of it. And part of taking care of it